It's that time again. Back for the Bro Code Podcast. Produced by Kennedy Lucas.
Hey yo, ATL, stand up. You're locked in with the livest, realest, rawest talk in the game. This is the Bro Code Podcast ATL, where the culture talks back, the vibes stay heavy, and the code always respected. Don't touch that dial. Keep it right here, because we breaking the code live from the A.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bro Code Podcast. Live from the studio, we have a great show. I'm Mark Smith, and we have Chris Mass here to join us. Let's get into the sports news. The NBA landscape has been completely flipped on its head this season. Would you believe the defending champion Thunder are on pace for a mind-boggling 76-6 record, while traditional powerhouses like the Clippers can barely win a game?
Well, that's a stunning turnaround from what most people expected. The Thunder's dominance is even more impressive, considering they're doing it without several key players.
You know what's wild about their run? Even with Jalen Williams completely out and guys like Chet Holmgren missing significant time, they're leading the league in defensive rating by an absurd 6.6 points per 100 possessions. That kind of gap between first and second place is practically unheard of.
And let's not forget Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is basically replicating his MVP numbers from last season, 31.2 points, 6.4 assists, and those incredible defensive metrics.
Speaking of unexpected developments, we need to dive into what's happening in Detroit. The Pistons sitting at 11-2. That's absolutely shocking for a team that was projected to be in the lottery again.
Their defensive transformation has been remarkable, going from bottom 5 last year to third in defensive rating. Though I'm curious about the sustainability when their offense ranks in the bottom third of the league.
That's actually part of a fascinating trend we're seeing across the league this year. These extreme splits where teams are elite on one end but struggling on the other. Take the Lakers, for instance. Fourth in effective field goal percentage, but their opponents are getting some of the best shot quality in the league.
That's interesting because it reminds me of what's happening in Atlanta. They've completely flipped their identity without Trae Young.
Right? The Hawks were always known as an offensive juggernaut that couldn't stop anyone. Now with Young out with that knee sprain, they've gone 8-2 while ranking 7th in defense but only 19th in offense. It's like they're playing in a mirror universe.
So what happens when Young comes back? Can they maintain this defensive intensity while getting their offensive mojo back?
That's the million-dollar question. And speaking of questions, we need to talk about these preseason contenders who are absolutely falling apart. The Clippers' situation is particularly dire. They're 4-9. Bradley Beal is done for the year after hip surgery. And Chris Paul has basically been relegated to cheerleader status.
Well, the age factor is really showing up there. When your key players are all on the wrong side of 30, these kinds of injury issues become almost inevitable.
You know what's fascinating about this season? The complete demolition of preseason expectations. Look at the Warriors. They were supposed to be right back in the title hunt, but they're barely treading water. Same with Orlando, who had those computer models projecting them for 49-plus wins.
That's exactly what makes the Eastern Conference middle tier so intriguing. You've got 7 teams that could legitimately finish anywhere from 4th to 12th.
The volatility is absolutely insane. The Raptors go from 1-4 to 8-5. The Bulls start 5-0 and then drop 6 of their next 7 games. It's like nobody can maintain any consistency except Oklahoma City.
Though Milwaukee might be the most interesting case in that middle tier, don't you think? They've still got Giannis playing at an MVP level.
That's what makes their situation so frustrating. You've got arguably the most dominant player in the league, but the supporting cast just isn't cutting it. Even with guys like Ryan Rollins and AJ Green exceeding expectations, they're still hovering around a neutral point differential.
Well, that brings us to the elephant in the room. These teams that are clearly positioning themselves for the 2026 draft. The race to the bottom is getting intense.
The fascinating thing about that situation is how the tanking calculus has changed with the flattened lottery odds. Utah and Washington had the 2 worst records last year and ended up picking 5th and 6th. but teams are still willing to take that risk because of how loaded the 2026 draft class looks.
The potential of landing someone like Darren Peterson or Cameron Boozer must be pretty tempting.
And then you've got the unique situation with teams like the Pacers, who didn't plan to be this bad but might accidentally succeed their way into the perfect scenario. Pairing one of those elite prospects with Tyrese Halliburton once he returns from that Achilles injury.
Though Utah's situation might be the most interesting of the bottom dwellers, they actually have 5 wins, more than the other bottom teams combined, but they owe that top 8 protected pick to Oklahoma City.
So they're basically forced to start losing more games intentionally just to keep their own pick. It's wild how these front office considerations can completely reshape a team's approach midseason.
Looking ahead, though, what do you make of the Thunder's chances to repeat? Denver seems like the only team that might be able to challenge them.
The Nuggets are definitely the biggest threat. They're second in point differential, even with Cam Johnson shooting well below his career averages. If he finds his stroke and they can secure that second seed, we might see another epic 7-game series between these two.
Though we shouldn't sleep on Houston either. Third best point differential in the league without Van Vliet, and they're getting Finney Smith back soon.
You know what makes this season so compelling? The boundaries between these different tiers feel more fluid than usual. A few good weeks or one key injury could completely reshape the landscape.
That's especially true in the Western Conference playoffs picture. Even some of these play-in dreamers, like Phoenix and Dallas, could be dangerous if things break right.
And we haven't even hit the trade deadline yet. Just imagine how these tiers might shift once teams start making moves. This season is far from over, and I have a feeling we're going to see some major surprises before it's all said and done.
Well, one thing's for certain. Between the Thunder's historic pace, these surprising contenders, and teams positioning for the future, this is shaping up to be one of the most interesting NBA seasons in recent memory.
And that's what makes following the NBA so exciting. Just when you think you've got it figured out, everything changes. We'll definitely need to revisit these tiers in a few months to see how it all played out.
Hi, everyone. This is Terry Lester with the latest in NFL news. The Chiefs and Broncos spent the first half circling each other like prize fighters, fully cognizant of the stakes and being careful not to make the devastating mistake. It was 6-6 at halftime, 2 field goals apiece, nothing to indicate which way it would go. In the second half, they started throwing haymakers and scoring touchdowns. They ended up delivering a classic rivalry game that turned on a sack by Broncos defensive back Jaquan McMillian, his second of the game, to go with an interception, and ended when Broncos kicker Will Lutz made a 35-yard field goal as time ran out for a 22-19 Denver victory. Coincidentally, it was the same length field goal attempt by Lutz that was blocked as time ran out in Kansas City last year to deliver the Broncos their most heartbreaking loss of the 2024 season. But this isn't last year. The Broncos were 1-6 in one-score games last season. They're 7-2 in them this year. The Chiefs were 11-0 in one-score games last season. They're 0-5 in them this year. I'd be lying if I didn't say it was a big win. Broncos coach Sean Payton said when it was over, it's maybe the biggest any team had in Week 11 when you factor in the history and the circumstances. The Broncos now head into their bye week with a 2-game division lead over the Chargers and a 3.5-game advantage over the Chiefs, who have won the AFC West 9 years in a row, with 6 games left in their season. So while we sort through Week 11 overreactions to try to figure out which ones might hold up and which ones are mirages, it seems right to start things in Denver. Not only is Kansas City 5-5, but has lost 2 in a row to AFC contenders Buffalo and Denver. Those games were wrapped around the Chiefs by week, which makes Sunday's result even more remarkable because it drops Coach Andy Reid's record to 22-5 coming off a bye. Kansas City enters Week 12 on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. The Chiefs are only a game behind the Jaguars, who will be the 7th seed if the playoffs started today, but they lost to them 2. So the Chiefs are in effect 2 games behind Jacksonville. Verdict, not an overreaction. The Chiefs have a ton of work to do just to get a wild card spot. Sunday's result makes the math incredibly daunting in terms of extending their division title streak to an even decade. The Chiefs are also 1.5 games behind the second-place Chargers in the AFC West and lost them in Week 1, so they'd be behind Los Angeles in the head-to-head tiebreaker, 2, though they do play both the Chargers and the Broncos one more time. But the main reason this isn't an overreaction is because the Broncos deserve their respect. Sure, second-year QB Bo Nix is erratic, but he has been nails in the fourth quarter, which is a heck of a foundation while he develops into a more stable quarterback. And Denver's defense is very clearly championship caliber. It recorded 3 more sacks Sunday to give the Broncos a staggering 49 through 11 games, which has them on pace to break the 1984 Bears single-season record. They're a nightmare to play against, even without reigning Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain II and leading tackler Alex Singleton, neither of whom played Sunday. If defensive coordinator Vance Joseph's group continues to play like this, the offense can afford to be in and out and rescue games in the fourth quarter. The Broncos have won 8 games in a row and trailed in all of them. This is who they are and how they win, and they go into their bye in an extremely good spot. The Chargers' offensive line issues are going to cost them a playoff spot. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert was awful in a 35-6 loss to the Jaguars on Sunday. It was bound to happen eventually, with both starting offensive tackles out for the season, one of whom, Rashawn Slater, has been sidelined since the preseason. Herbert has been taking a pounding and producing in spite of the hits, but the dam broke Sunday. Before being pulled for Trey Lance early in the fourth quarter with the game out of reach, Herbert was pressured on 11 of 23 dropbacks, 48%, the second highest figure for him this season. The Chargers are 7-4 and would be the 6th seed in the AFC if the playoffs started today. They are on a bye next week, so Herbert has a chance to heal. But they're going to come out of the bye with the same tackle situation they have now, and that's not good. Verdict: not an overreaction to Texans, Chiefs, and Ravens, teams we're used to seeing in the playoffs, are each 5-5 and lurking, waiting to take the playoff spot from a team that slips. Baltimore is playing much better than it did in the first half of the season and still has a shot to win its division. But all 3 of those teams could still get into the playoffs, which would knock out teams such as the AFC North leading Steelers, the 6-4 Jaguars, and the Chargers. Los Angeles' next 3 games are against the Raiders, Eagles, and Chiefs, all of whom can pressure the quarterback. The Chargers get a break in Week 16 against Dallas defense, but finish with games against the Texans and Broncos, arguably the 2 best offenses in the NFL right now. How are the Chargers going to protect Herbert for 6 more games? Josh Allen will win his 2nd straight MVP award. The Bills' quarterback and reigning NFL MVP was incredible in a 44-32 victory over the Buccaneers on Sunday. Allen accounted for 6 total touchdowns, 3 passing and 3 rushing, while throwing for 317 yards and rushing for 40. This was a game in which Allen needed to be Superman, and he was. He completed passes to 9 different people. His leading receiver was Tyrell Shavers, so congrats if you predicted that. Gabe Davis, who wasn't even on the team last week, caught 3 passes for 40 yards. This was a classic Allen has to win it for us game, a shootout against Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. The Bills needed a win after last week's upset loss to Miami, and Allen got it for them. Verdict: overreaction. Allen also threw 2 interceptions Sunday, bringing his season total to 7, one more than he threw in all of 2024. He has been a little more inconsistent this season than he was last year. There's no shame in that. Allen and the Bills' offense were a machine in 2024, but they're trailing the Patriots in the AFC East and just haven't clicked as consistently as they want to. There's still time. Buffalo could catch the Patriots. Allen could finish on a tear and absolutely could win his 2nd MVP award in a row. He's unquestionably good enough. But this year, with guys such as Matthew Stafford and Drake May and Jonathan Taylor doing what they're doing, it doesn't look as if Allen has put himself in position to separate from the MVP pack. This is the best Rams team of the Matthew Stafford era. The Rams beat the Seahawks 21-19 in the other huge matchup Sunday afternoon, improving to 8-2 and taking sole possession of first place in the NFC West, where they're a game ahead of 7-3 Seattle and 1.5 games up on the 7-4 49ers. The Rams have a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense, and Stafford has played out of his mind this season. He has thrown 273 straight passes without an interception and has tossed only 2 picks to 27 touchdown passes. The Rams have a monster run game out of these 3 tight end formations they're majoring in this season and can win several different ways. Verdict: overreaction. This isn't a simple, well, the 2021 team won the Super Bowl, so unless they do that. Commentary: Stafford wasn't brilliant Sunday. He was 15 for 28 for 130 yards. The Seahawks outgained Los Angeles 414 yards to 249. The Rams were 2 for 11 on third down. They're a really good team and deserve to be considered the favorite in the NFC following Sunday's win, pending Sunday night's Lions-Eagles result. But the 2021 team had Cooper Kupp putting up a historic wide receiver season and got a boost from mid-season acquisitions Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller. Oh, it also had Aaron Donald. Could this Rams team reach those same heights? Sure, but it doesn't have the same star power, and it needed the Seahawks to turn the ball over 4 times and miss a 61-yard field goal at the end to win by 2 points Sunday. The Seahawks will still have something to say about whether the Rams even win the NFC West. Myles Garrett will smash the single-season sacks record. Sure, the Browns lost to the Ravens on Sunday. No big news there. The Browns are 2-8 and lose all the time. But Garrett is having a ridiculous season, and it needs to be pointed out. He had 4 more sacks Sunday to give him 15 for the season and 10 in his past 3 games. He's on pace to finish with 25.5 sacks, which would easily break the single-season record of 22.5 set by Michael Strahan in 2001 and matched by TJ. What, 20 years later? Verdict: not an overreaction. Why doubt him? Garrett obviously doesn't need to be in the best possible environment to pile up sacks. His team obviously doesn't need to be playing from ahead. He obviously can beat double teams. The Browns get the Raiders, 49ers, Titans, and Bears in their next 4 games. All of those teams have sackable quarterbacks. Garrett doesn't seem to have much else to play for. He's signed long-term and knows he's in the middle of what seems like an eternal rebuild. Get your sacks, Myles. Make your history. Make them remember that you were maybe the best player in the league at a time when your team couldn't get you anywhere near the playoffs.
The women's college volleyball season is in the stretch run. We will post weekly updates on the field of 64 until it's officially revealed by the selection committee on November 30, 6 p.m. ESPN. There are 31 automatic bids, with 33 at-large teams, chosen by the NCAA Volleyball Committee. Volleyball seeds the top 8 teams in each region, and the top 4 in each region serve as first and second-round hosts. The rest of the bracket is filled out to balance it competitively and geographically. The highest remaining seeds also host the regionals, and the 2025 Final Four is in Kansas City, Missouri, on December 18, with the finals on December 21. Bracket Watch. The No. 1 seed stayed intact with Nebraska continuing to roll, Kentucky moving to 13-0 in the SEC, Texas regaining its footing, and Pittsburgh getting a rare break in the ACC with consecutive matches against 2 of the league's worst teams. That stability could be challenged this week. The Cornhuskers make a trip to the West Coast with matches against dangerous USC and UCLA. The Panthers do the same with their cross-country swing. Friday's Pittsburgh-Stanford matchup will shape the top 2 lines as the season hits its final 2 weeks. The Cardinal, currently a No. 2 seed, have a big opportunity with SMU also coming to Palo Alto this weekend. Top seedings. No. 1 seeds, Nebraska, Kentucky, Texas, Pittsburgh. No. 2 seeds, Arizona State, Purdue, Texas A&M, Stanford. No. 3 seeds, Creighton, SMU, Louisville, Wisconsin. No. 4 seeds, Indiana, USC, Kansas, Minnesota. No. 5 seeds, Miami, TCU, BYU, UTEP. No. 6 seeds, Colorado, Iowa State, Tennessee, Xavier. No. 7 seeds, Baylor, Penn State, Florida, Arizona. No. 8 seeds, North Carolina, UCLA, Kansas State, South Dakota State. Rest of the field, alphabetical American, Ball State, Central Florida, Coppin State, Dayton, East Tennessee State, Fairfield, Georgia Tech, Illinois, Jacksonville, James Madison, Long Island, Marquette, Maryland, Baltimore County, Michigan State, Michigan, Morehead State, Northern Arizona, Northern Iowa, Northern Kentucky, Prairie View and Dam, Princeton, Rice, San Diego, South Florida, Stephen F., Austin, UC Davis, Campbell, Utah State, Utah Valley, Western Kentucky, Winthrop. The rest of the field teams wouldn't be seeded, bolstered by a sweep of Iowa State. UCF moved into the field this week, and if the Knights keep winning, they will have earned a spot in the NCAA tournament. 5 matches await to finish the season, and all 5 are against potential tournament teams. Georgia Tech tripped up this week with a loss at Boston College, making its status in the field tenuous. With Louisville, Stanford, and Pittsburgh still on the schedule, the Yellow Jackets have an opportunity to put themselves in the tournament with one upset, with little wiggle room after falling in Chestnut Hill. Anything short of winning one of those might cost Georgia Tech a bid. Last 4 in: Illinois, UCF, Marquette, Georgia Tech. First 4 out: Villanova, Auburn, Missouri, Cincinnati. Next 4 out: Oregon, Tulsa, Florida State, Oklahoma. Conference breakdown: Big 12 11, Big 10 11, ACC 7, SEC 5, Big East 3, American 2. CUSA 2 in February 2022. Dan Bartholomew, the newly appointed athletic director at Western Michigan, held his first all-staff meeting. After weeks of learning about the university and its athletics profile, Bartholomew delivered a message for anyone willing to hear it. Think big. We're going to win conference championships. We're going to put ourselves in a position to win national championships, Bartholomew said that day. But we all have to believe we can do it, and we ought to agree that that's important. If you agree and you're willing to do the work, you belong in this room. If not, that's cool. You don't have to stick around. Bartholomew's directive sounded like what many new ADs would tell their staff. But those words needed to be said and ultimately believed at Western Michigan, which hadn't won any Division I national championships since men's cross country went back-to-back in 1964 and 1965. Shortly after the meeting, hockey coach Pat Ferschweiler went to Bartholomew with his own message: "What you're saying is true. Keep saying it." When Ferschweiler played for WMU in the early 1990s, he thought the team could win a national title, but there was always hesitancy around campus. For too long, we've been shy about saying we want to be great, in case we're not great. Ferschweiler said, we second-tiered ourselves as a university. That's not the case anymore. The Western Michigan men's hockey team was top tier last season, actually in a tier of its own. National champions. The regional school in Southwest Michigan won it all. On Thursday night, a championship banner will be revealed at Lawson Arena as WMU opens the season against Ferris State. Men's hockey is distinct in that teams from a range of schools can contend for the sport's top prize. From 2001 to 2010, 7 titles went to teams from schools that have Power 4 football. From 2013 to 2024, all but 1 championship went to a school without a team in the Football Bowl subdivision. Title winners included Denver, Providence, and Quinnipiac, which don't have football teams at all and can sink resources into hockey. Other winners included North Dakota, which plays in the Football Championship subdivision, and Minnesota Duluth, which plays Division II football. Then, in April, Western Michigan captured its first championship. WMU plays football in the Mid-American Conference, a proud but financially challenged FBS league, and hockey in the NCHC, which Ferschweiler calls the SEC of hockey because of its surge in national titles, winning 7 of the last 9 NCAA tournaments. There's nothing more exciting than a national championship for a regional university like us. WMU President Russ Calvohona said, "The story of a regional university is always thinking you might have a chance, but learning you don't. And that's what this team completely demolished for all of us." Bartholomew views Western Michigan's championship as distinct, even from those won by others in the NCHC, where only one other member, Miami, Ohio, plays FBS football. When he attends athletic director meetings in the MAC, he can sense the other 2 long-standing members of the league that have hockey teams, Miami, and Bowling Green, looking to replicate our success. UMass, which just joined the MAC this season, plays in Hockey East, winning the national title in 2021. But Western Michigan also faces the pressure of, what's next? After surging to the summit of the sport, how does WMU stay there? The plan involves the people and homegrown ingredients that fueled the program's rise, and a massive facilities project designed to put WMU on or near the top rung for good. Lawson Arena opened in 1974 and looks its age. From the earth tones exterior and low ceiling to the cramped concourse and cinder block hallways, there are markings of WMU's national championship, both inside and outside. But the building oozes history, including the faded photos of past teams and individual standouts. The late ESPN host and play-by-play broadcaster John Saunders played at Lawson, as did his brother, Bernie, a WMU Ring of Honor member who logged 10 games for the NHL's Quebec Nordiques. The arena has a seating capacity of just 3,667, nearly half of which is assigned to the Lawson Lunatics, WMU's student section, which uplifts the Broncos and torments visitors, especially the unfortunate souls sent to the penalty box right in front of them. Insane. Star goaltender Hampton Slukinski said of playing in Lawson. Crazy, in the best way possible, said forward Owen Michaels, WMU's captain. The coolest thing ever, added defenseman Cole Krusberg-Rosine. After a recent practice at Lawson, Ferschweiler walked into the team's cozy meeting room and sat down with a Diet Mountain Dew. Ferschweiler is the face of WMU hockey, a former player who returned as coach and accomplished the unthinkable at his alma mater. But when WMU recruited him out of Rochester, Minnesota, he didn't know much. That was pre-internet, so we had to pull out the old paper maps and figure out where it was. Ferschweiler said, "Since I stepped foot on campus, I fell in love. The cool thing about Western to me has always been, it's big enough to offer everything, but small enough where you still feel valued as an individual." Ferschweiler won MVP honors for the Broncos in the 1992-93 season and played for teams that had winning records but never advanced to the NCAA tournament, which had only 12 participants at the time. He teamed with Keith Jones, who went on to NHL prominence, and now serves as president of hockey operations for the Philadelphia Flyers. WMU had only one NCAA tournament appearance and 3 regular season or conference tournament titles before Ferschweiler returned to the school for the first of 2 stints as a Broncos assistant in 2010. But he had greater aspirations even going back to his playing days. "I just thought this is a world-class place, and it's a hidden gem," he said. "We have tons to offer here." Arguably WMU hockey's greatest asset is Lawson, an arena that reflects the program's soul. Last year's Broncos won a team record 16 games there, with their only 2 losses coming in overtime. WMU is 52-23-2 at Lawson during the past 5 seasons. "I love Lawson Arena, and our players love playing in Lawson Arena," Ferschweiler said. "On Friday and Saturday nights, it's as special an environment as there is in college hockey." The problem with Lawson, for a program aspiring to be elite, are the other days of the week. On a Monday and Tuesday, when most of the recruits come through, it's a 51-year-old building. Ferschweiler said, "It'd be nice to have a prettier wrapping, which we're certainly going to have in our new building." In the fall of 2027, Western Michigan is set to open the Kalamazoo Event Center, a $515 million project that will be the new home for Broncos hockey, WMU's men's and women's basketball programs, and the Kalamazoo Wings, a minor league affiliate of the Vancouver Canucks. The downtown facility, not far from WMU's campus, was in the works before the hockey team's national title and had its groundbreaking ceremony last month. WMU soon will move from a charming but aging barn to possibly the best facility in college hockey. There are other, more immediate changes too, as WMU begins its penultimate season at Lawson. "Pat and I laugh about this. It was cheaper to go to our hockey games than it was to go to a movie in 2022, Bartholomew said. "We had to put together a ticket model that actually made us competitive. We hadn't set up the infrastructure to be big time." Calvahuna took over as president in July, but needed no introduction to Lawson. He saw his first game there at 7, sitting next to his father, Eduardo, an immigrant from Brazil who knew little about hockey, but sought an outlet away from the house during wintertime. Russ Calvahona later watched games from the stands as a WMU student and absorbed Lawson's intimacy and energy. We held off the price inflation for as long as we could, but we're proud of the fact that you can come to Kalamazoo, like my dad and I did. But unlike us, you can see national talent in a small venue with an extraordinarily vibrant environment, Calvahona said. And we're going to amp that up with the arena in 2 years.
Hey yo, ATL, stand up. You're locked in with the livest, realest, rawest talking the game. This is the Bro Code Podcast ATL, where the culture talks back, the vibes stay heavy, and the code always respected. Don't touch that dial. Keep it right here, because we breaking the code live from the A.